Hello and welcome everyone to another AccessOS technical update session. Today we will talk about OAuth 2.0 and why it's becoming the standard way to handle authentication in modern applications. Let's get started. My name is Benjamin and I'm with the AccessOS product management team. Today I will walk you through the challenges with traditional access methods, explain what OAuth is and how it works, and then show you some example setups with access products. Let's have a look at some of the challenges with the current access method when comparing it with OAuth. With basic digest authentication, every device or application keeps its own list of usernames and passwords. This creates silos of user identities that are hard to maintain and keeping secure. OAuth, on the other hand, centralizes identity and access management, so all users or applications can rely on the same trusted provider. From an operations standpoint, basic digest authentication creates significant overhead. Because of silos, administrators spend a lot of time managing multiple password stores. This leads to higher costs and complexity. OAuth reduces this burden by delegating authentication to a trusted provider and using standardized flows. The bigger issue is security. Basic digest is weaker because it lacks built-in support for multi-factor authentication, password policies, and token expiration. This makes it vulnerable to credential leaks. OAuth is stronger by supporting multi-factor authentication, being able to enforce policies, and the use of token-based authentication with time limits. Basic digest sends static credentials with each request, which increases risk if those credentials are intercepted. OAuth relies on temporary tokens that can expire or be refreshed, making it safer and more flexible. At the same time, with Basic Digest, users are faced with what we call credential overload. Users have to often remember multiple sets of credentials, which leads to frustration and insecure workarounds, like reusing passwords or writing them down. OAuth improves the experience by enabling single sign-on, so users only manage fewer but stronger credentials. Finally, the fragmented approach from Basic Digest does not scale well with organizations moving towards cloud adoption, modern applications, and hybrid work, and the lack of a unified identity layer makes it harder to grow securely and efficiently. From an access perspective, there are two OAuth flows that are relevant. The first is the Authorization Code Flow, which is used for user-to-machine communication. In this scenario, an actual user logs into an access device, typically using a username and password. This flow is available starting with AccessOS 11.7. Upon accessing the access device, the user is redirected to the identity provider to authenticate and provide consent. Once approved, the application receives an authorization code, which it exchanges for an access token. This token allows the application to access the access device on behalf of the logged-in user. The second flow is the client credentials grant, which supports machine-to-machine or service-to-service communication. This flow, available in AccessOS 12.4 and later, does not involve an end user. Instead, a service or application such as a video or device management system, authenticates directly with the identity provider, using its own credentials to obtain an access token. The token can then be used to access the access device. In this flow, the access device has no visibility into any specific user identity because the request is made on behalf of the service account rather than a person. This enables automated, secure access for systems and applications without requiring human interaction. In this video, you can see an example of the authorization code flow that is used for user-to-machine authentication. A user attempts to access an access device through a standard web browser. Instead of logging in locally, the device redirects them to a login page of the identity provider that has been configured for authentication. After entering their credentials and completing multi-factor authentication, the identity provider verifies the login, authorizes the user, and redirects them back to the access device. At that point, the device verifies the user's role defined in the identity provider and grants the appropriate access level, such as administrator, operator, or viewer. From there, the user can access the device just as they would do with a local account. There are several ways to approach OAuth adoption, but let's start with a legacy setup. The access device manages its own login, with little or no federation, either through the VMS, device management system, or not at all. In this example, user account information needs to be known in every part of the system, and risk for credential leakage exists, indicated with a red star. Some applications use OAuth for authentication, while others continue with legacy login methods. This represents a traditional model during adoption, often referred to as a hybrid setup. In this scenario, the access device still manages local users, but the number of local accounts is limited, and access to these local users can be restricted to only a few authorized individuals. As last, the fully compatible setup. In this model, all authentication is delegated through an identity provider. This approach centralizes identity management, making user access control, auditing, and security policies far more consistent and easier to maintain. Compared with the previous examples, user account information needs to be known only on the identity provider side, and risk for credential leakage is limited as each login is unique and centralized. Let's wrap up with the key benefits of OAuth. With basic digest authentication, passwords are often reused. OAuth replaces that with short-lived tokens, which lowers the risk of credential leaks or attacks. Instead of forcing users to remember dozens of passwords, OAuth enables single sign-on. This creates a smooth, frictionless login experience, one login, multiple applications. OAuth isn't a niche solution. It's the industry standard used across web apps, mobile apps, APIs, and cloud services. By adopting it, you're aligning with how modern authentication is evolving. Whether your organization uses Google, Microsoft, Okta, Curity, or another identity provider, integration is easy using OAuth. That flexibility ensures you can scale or switch providers without redesigning your entire authentication system. So the takeaway here is simple. Moving from passwords to tokens, OAuth provides a standard that balances security, usability, and scalability. And that's it for today's topic. I hope you've enjoyed this session about OAuth. Thanks a lot for joining in, and keep an eye on more videos being published in our Access OS playlist on YouTube.